So mailbag here on the Cowboys Report. First up is a super thanks from William Cook. This came in before day 2 of the draft. He said, proud receiver in the second, running back in the third. Didn't work out that way. They did stick to their board and take best available, though. Appreciate that, William. Even if I don't get to it because it's the draft or something else going on, we will always give you a shout-out if your super thanks comes in. Hit the heart with the $sign in it, edit your message, send in whatever, and we'll give you some love here on the show. This is a super thanks from Matthew Langley. How would you feel if the Cowboys picked up Isaiah Bond? I think in general, no one's going to sign Isaiah Bond right now. Isaiah Bond has an active, current sexual assault case against him. There's just no way you can justify picking him up right now. If and when that situation gets cleared, you can revisit, you can reevaluate, see what you want to do, figure out, is he worth it for you? Is he not worth it for you? I had already heard of character concern stuff before that came out on Isaiah Bond. I don't think that's a good thing to tack onto it. I had finished my grade on him before the case came out. I had a 4th-round grade on Bond. So I don't really think he solidifies and fixes your wide receiver 2 spot. But if he ends up being, no charges, proven innocent, everything else there, you can certainly revisit it. But right now, I don't think you can bring him in. That's why he's unsigned. As I film it on our Monday Live show, no one's picked him up because you just can't do that. Corey, so they have to get a wide receiver too, right? Please say yes. I'd be extremely disappointed and frankly upset if they were just like, this is fine. Because they have said they don't think it's fine. That's kind of what frustrated me is they're like, oh yeah, we did a great job addressing our needs. Well, you clearly didn't because you're talking about how you need a wide receiver 2 right now. So I would hope they go get a number 2 option. There's been some buzz from Nick Harris on Amari Cooper. The Pickens trade rumor stuff has been there. There's not a lot of viable options. You don't want to be reckless and just don't trade your first, whatever. Learn some lessons there. If you trade a 4, make it for a good player this time. But yeah, they need to at least try to go get a wide receiver too. So name a receiver that you want to add. Let me know at the pinned comment of today's show. What receiver do you want to add? Jerome Nichols, how about a deal for Michael Mayer, the Las Vegas tight end? Then just sign whichever receiver Dak wants from Cooper or Allen. I think a good tight end would open things up more. I think that the answer here is I have some interest because I liked Michael Mayer coming out of college. Not sure what exactly was going on when he left the Raiders last year. I think my answer would be that the Cowboys are going to tell you that they think Jake Ferguson is going to look more like the 2023 version and less like the 2024 version. 2023 guy had 760 yards and 5 scores, and that's actually probably good enough for most teams at tight end. It was fringe top 10 numbers, frankly. So if they believe and trust Ferguson to be better, okay. I think of all the players on this team, I think the one that had the biggest impact to their stats with when Dak got hurt was Jake. I think he really missed having Prescott out there. $10, Kai Trimble. Tom, Cowboys moving Diggs to safety when he comes back. I am personally not worried about his tackling. It's enough to put the fear in the hearts of QBs trying to test us deep. I think he's a corner. I actually do think that the tackling's an issue at safety. It's one thing to have way outside on the left edge. It's not as good run stopping, but you got a bad tackling safety. It kind of concerns me. And you have to fit your run stuff. Even if you're not making the tackle, you got to be willing to take on blockers and doing pole stuff. You have to fit the run properly. I don't think Diggs is a safety. I don't think the tackling is good enough. And I think that if he's still going to play a lot of deep coverage. I'm keeping him at corner all the way. Lucid. I think we did pretty good. 3 first-rounders in Savone, Azaraku, and Booker. That's a win in my book, and they didn't reach for a bad player. I think he's got another similar super thanks kind of on this. Cowboys went for best available, not a trash player. I think this was a good example of them just taking the best guy on their board. Maybe the running back wasn't the pure best guy on their board. Maybe that actually was like Shamar James. But they took the best player available. We can argue if that should have been the best player, but I will give them credit for kind of going back to form and not just reaching on, we got to get this spot. That's when they get themselves into trouble. I thought that, especially Azaraku and Rebel, similar to my boards too, very highly ranked. Tony, trade for DJ Moore. I would look at the contract for DJ Moore for starters, but I would be very surprised. I get the Bears drafted Luther Burden, FU Chicago for that. The Bears just extended him. So if they were to, they do save money via trade. So I guess that is actually kind of doable. But I don't foresee the Bears being like, yeah, we're adding all this talent for Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams. Let's trade away our best wide receiver. I don't think that's a likely outcome. Try though. So will the Cowboys end up trading for a wide receiver? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Mike Nintendo Master, I like their first round pick. They need offensive line. And there was a lot of things that they needed. I think the unfortunate part is this team was gonna take Tedero McMillan, and Panthers sniped him. And then they I don't think the board fell the way that they wanted it to in the end. Emil Pedersen, I think the Cowboys will play in Europe soon. I would not be surprised. I think Mexico might be the first place they end up going. Jerry's always had a bit of an issue with giving up the home game, and I think that's a factor in why they haven't had a Super Bowl since then, by the way. I think if you're not playing ball with give a home game, playing overseas, growing the shield, you're not going to get a Super Bowl, even though they probably should have another one. I think it's actually kind of crazy that they haven't. So I think that's part of it there. I think whether it's this year, next year, I do think an international game will be coming at some point soon for the Dallas Cowboys. The Micah decision pool, by the way, is ongoing. You pick the date that Micah signs or gets traded. You can go to chatsports.com/Micah to see the entries in there so far. Venmo me at WhatGoingDowney, $5 to enter. The closest one gets the 50-50 split the pot payout. It signs, or I guess gets traded, should be signs, but no one has any May dates in there right now. So there's some value in the Micah decision pool. Matthew B. Tom, what about Tyreek Hill? Post June 1st, the money becomes a bit more manageable for Miami, but you can't post June 1st a trade. You have to do it after June 1st. Kind of like the George Pickens stuff. I don't know if I want to deal with that. I don't know if I want to deal with all that hassle. There's just so much extra with Tyreek Hill. I know Micah would love it. I just worry about that being a negative in your locker room. I don't want to have to do what my boy Nick Rolf does for Miami. Be like, today, Tyreek Hill again, implying he was going to get traded. I don't want to deal with that. I don't think the players want to deal with it. Austin DH3, based off stats, we have the fastest receiver, Turpin, Blue. Again, the 4.25 at his pro day, still a 4.38 per game regular. I think that was just the agent getting a faster time out there. That wasn't what most teams used. Hitting 2.23. Yeah, look, in the end, 4.25, 4.38, 4.35, whatever. He's fast. You do actually have some speed there in Turpin and Blue, especially help you out more in the short yardage area stuff with Turpin and, of course, with Blue as a back. We will have more Cowboys offseason coverage. Minicamp coming up here this weekend. We'll have updates for you on that. Hit the sub button so you don't miss out. YouTube.com/@CowboysTV. Christopher Snyder, would you look at the Packers for a number 2 wide receiver? I think you can call them. In many ways, though, I kind of feel like you're right back in the exact same spot you are right now. It's not quite to the full extent, because I think that CeeDee Lamb is a way better receiver than Christian Watson. But I think a lot of the other Packers receivers, it's a little bit like the Spider-Man meme. Like Jaden Reed and Romeo Doubs and Dontavian Wicks. It's the Spider-Man meme of Jalen Tolbert and Ryan Flanoy and Jonathan Mingo and all that kind of stuff. Reed's kind of a gadgety player that isn't a pure receiver. Doubs is he's like Tolbert to me, and there's not massive differences there. Dontavian Wicks hasn't been a huge part. They drafted Matthew Golden because they needed another wide receiver. If you didn't have a 3, I would be calling Green Bay. I kind of think you still need more than what they would be willing to trade. I don't hate those options. I think that I think Romeo Doubs right now is a better player than Jonathan Mingo, no doubt. But you can look at the numbers. Doubs' best year is the same as Jalen Tolbert's best year. I actually don't know if they're any different. That just kind of feels like it's new than it is better. Skeptical Fan says sign Gilmore and Cooper. By the way, I just don't think they're going to trade Christian Watson off the injury. So like that one, yes, would be an upgrade, but I don't think he's actually available. I would be down. Gilmore, corner might not be a need. Maybe it is, but I think those are like two of the better available free agents that you could potentially sign. So with that in mind, name a player who you want to add. Let me know in the comment section of today's show. Spaz, what about Jameson Williams at wide receiver 2? Yes, I will say this part. The fact that the Lions have publicly announced that they are going to pick up the second round or the 5th-year option on Jameson Williams makes me think he's actually not going to be traded. That's what that tells me. That was almost like a public declaration of, nope, this is our guy. We're not doing it. Steven GX, we think the minimum number of wins we're getting next season. I mean, look, the minimum could go crazy. Like if you just get decimated by injuries and it turns out Joe Milton, Will Grier are bad backup QBs, and all of a sudden like that win number drops significantly. Like if they're healthy, I have a tough time seeing this team not getting to minimum 6-7 wins, as difficult as that schedule might end up being. And I think the 10 to 11 win ceiling is kind of where you're at. 12 would be kind of a surprise to me. Which, like, doesn't that number sound very familiar to us over the past many of the years? I'm just going to go with consecrated here. I think the Cowboys are smart in their picks. Again, I like them. I think the receiver 2 spot, not filling that is not good for me. I think a big factor in that, though, is still the fact that, hey, that's an off-season failure almost as much as anything else. And maybe, heck, by the time this video is out, maybe they'll fix that wide receiver 2 spot.